What's going on, traders? Welcome back to another video here in Mastering Penny Stocks. So now is where we're going to start tying everything together, okay? So as you can see here on my screen, there is a stock chart and there is a screener or a scanner that we've covered here in the section from FinViz. Now, this particular scanner is the one that we're going to use at night. It's a free one, free scanner on FinViz. You can use at night to scan for penny stocks that may possibly go up the next day. So in these next coming videos, you got to pay close attention because we're going to start covering and analyzing and picking stocks based off of all the scanners you have been shown so far. So in these next videos, we're going to go over, again, all the scanners we've already been over, how we use them, when we're looking at them, when we get stock alerts, how do we then look at those stocks and determine which ones are going to be or have a high probability of being good to trade the next day or during this day. Okay, so this whole next couple videos, we're going to be going into, picking the stocks and analyzing and what you're really looking for in these penny stocks and, to consider trading them. Okay, so pay very close attention throughout these coming videos. All right, so on this first one here, the reason we're going to start with the FinViz stock scanner and this aftermarket nightly scan is because each day after the market closes, this is what your routine should be. You should use a nightly scan, something that recaps the trading day, okay? So we're going to use the scanner on FinViz. You can also use the scanner that I showed you for the aftermarket scan in Thinkorswim. These two scanners work very similar, but again, they do tend to pick up some different stocks, so I would recommend using both the FinViz nightly scanner and using the Thinkorswim nightly scan as well. Both those videos on these scanners have been recorded in this section, so just make sure to touch back to those if you don't know what I'm talking about right now, okay? So the reason we're going to use this one is because as a trader, our routine should look something like this. We wake up, start of the new week. We wake up on Monday. We get into the market. We're going to see what stocks are gapping up on our pre-market scanners, whether they're gapping up or gapping down, okay? And then when the market closes, the routine would start all over again. We go through our aftermarket scanners, okay? Figure out and recap what stocks have done what all day long. Have they gone up? Have they gone down? So we're going to get an idea of what the market did today, okay? So now we may have a handful of stocks that we found at night after the market closed that we want to keep our eyes on for the next day. So we have these few stocks that we found at night after the market closes, okay? And then when the market opens up again and things start happening, we'll then use our scan or our stocks we found from our nightly scan. We'll put those stocks together with the scanners of our pre-market scan. So if we find something that we like gapping up in the morning or gapping down in the morning, we can then combine those stocks with what we've come up at night. And now we should have a comfortable list of stocks that we could potentially trade for the next day. And this is a rinse and repeat routine day in and day out. So let's go in and let's start taking a look at this. So specifically, I'm going to use this stock here, I, as the example because I did actually tend to be a really good stock over the past couple days that you could have also found using this FinViz scanner. So that is why we're particularly going to talk about the stock I and what is it that we are looking for when we use this nightly scan. All right, so the nightly scanner is down here. Okay, of course, you can always play around with this and change it the way you need, but right now we have a price of under $10, relative volume of 2%, change up 5%, and over 500,000 shares of volume traded for the day. Okay, we're not going to touch on why we're using this criteria. That was in the previous video. So if we go down, we're going to start pulling up a list of stocks. Okay, and we'll touch back on I. We'll use I as a great example, but we'll come back to the stock I here. All right, before we do that, let me move this on up over here. Okay, so the first thing we want to do, all right, as a routine and how we get into the penny stock world and how we're trading, this is exactly how your routine should really look every single day, okay? So right now, this is nighttime. The market's closed. It's 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. right? You're sitting down, you're thinking to yourself, well, what am I going to trade for the next day? This is your routine, guys. You come into something like FinViz, or you use the nightly scan with Thinkorswim that we covered, okay? And we'll talk about that one a little bit. So you're going to come in here, right? Run a scan, run a nightly scan, something I showed you right here. It's a very simple scanner, right? And for penny stocks. So we're going to find stocks lower price, all right? So we run the scanner, and the first one on the list, we'll just go down the list, is BDR. Okay, so we can see here, all right, so now the idea here, guys, this is what we're doing. We're analyzing. We have the scanners. You guys have the tools now. We just went over them all. You have the tools. You have the necessary ingredients to find the stocks now. Okay, so now that we can scan for them, we need to go through and we need to look at them. We need to analyze them. We need to have a judgment decision on whether or not we think this stock or these stocks or whatever stock may have potential to trade. And in this particular video and on this particular scanner, we're focusing on penny stocks that have had a really good day or had a fairly good trading day when they close and the market closed. And now we're looking to see, based on the scanner and based on the stocks that we've pulled up, we're looking to see if there's any penny stocks that the scanner pulls up that we think will have a good day tomorrow or the next day. We want to see if there's any stocks we think that will continue going upwards the next day. So this is what we would call a continuation play, or we're scanning for stocks for continuation trades, continuation plays. All the continuation means is it went up today and it continues going up tomorrow. And vice versa, you could also scan for continuation plays to the downside, where it went down today and it may go down the next day, okay? So right now we're looking for continuation plays. So let's go down the list. What we're looking for, and I'm actually gonna pull this down for a quick second and then we'll come back to FinViz. So we'll use BDR here for an example. This will be our first, this will be our first example, okay? So BDR, ideally, and you can see this price, it's 138, this is a penny stock. Ideally, what we are looking for when trading a continuation play is, as soon as you come in and look at the stock chart, you're looking for a penny stock when we're talking continuation. We're looking for a stock or a penny stock that went up today, it had a relatively good day, and by the time the end of the trading day rolls around, the price closes relatively high, okay? So as you can see here on this chart, the stock went up, and then it did come down and it went back up, but ideally it closed pretty high, right? It didn't close, down here, and it didn't close down here, right? So what I'm getting at is the price went up and it was able to sustain that higher price value at which it reached today, okay? So again, repeat that. We're looking for stocks, continuation plays this is. So at nighttime, we run this scan. We figure out which penny stocks had a pretty good day and whether or not they closed. And when we say closed, the trading day ended and the price stayed relatively high. So this is the high a day. We're looking to see if the price closed relatively close to that high a day. This one did not. It actually dropped out before the end of the day, but it didn't dump. So this does have a possibility, or we can say that this one does have a possibility to continue up tomorrow. So this would be a stock you could put on your watch list. I can tell you right now, this isn't the best looking stock. And part of the reason is we started dying out in volume towards the end of the day. So we'll touch on more of these things, but to be honest, this isn't necessarily the best stock that I think would continue up the next day, all right? So the key thing when we're looking for continuation plays based on these scanners here we're showing you in this video is we're looking to see the stock or penny stock go up and it has a relatively good day, and it may go up again. Something like this, the chart may look like this, but by the time the trading day ends, right, and this is circle right here, that's the end of the trading day. We're looking to see that the price closes relatively close to the high of day price. Okay, this arrow points to the highest price point theoretically if this were a stock, a penny stock, and it traded, right, and this was the high of day right there, that by the time the end of the trading day rolls around, the price didn't dump out, it didn't dump all the way back down, but it actually closes relatively high to its high of day price, because The reason we consider these ones good candidates for continuation is because if it does something like that, right, and it closes really high, and let me back up. Let's do this again. So let's go. It goes up, it pulls back, right, and does something like that. Maybe pulls back again, and then it kind of comes like this, and it does that, and something like that. Like, let's just say that was a chart. Well, what we can say here is this yellow arrow points to the highest price point that the stock reached on that trading day. The reason we could consider that this may be a candidate, or this red line, this stock, right? The reason we could consider that this one might be a good candidate for continuation, right, is because the price here, right, we're saying that's the price, closed relatively close to the high a day, which means if this is going to continue up the next day, right? If the price were to continue up the next day, I have to redo some of these drawings. So if the price were going to continue up the next day, right, the price only has to break above the high a day to be a continuation play. So the closer the price closes, or the closer, there's so many closes in here. So the closer the closing price is to the high of day, which is right here. So the closer the closing price is to high of day, makes it that much easier for it to continue up, because it only has to go a little bit before it breaks this yellow line, or before it breaks through yesterday's previous high of day. Okay, the further, let me take a step back for a second, the further the price, so if essentially the price did this before the end of the day, okay, if the price dumped out like this and went all the way down here, it would have to essentially go all the way back up that far just to even attempt to break through the high day price. So that right there is a big move back up to try and break through. So this may not be the best candidate for a continuation play. Whereas if the price closed right here, didn't mean to do that. If the price closed right here, it only has to go this little bit, you can see, it only has to go that little bit to break through the previous high of day. Therefore, this is what we would consider a stronger candidate for a continuation play, okay? And all these drawings, they could have confused you a little bit. So before we go back to FinViz and look at some of these stocks, let's take a quick look here. Let's take a quick look at the stock chart I. This is the one I was just referring to, okay? So if you were to run the same exact scanner on FinViz, okay, that we're talking about here in this video, you in fact would have been able to find this stock I. Real quick, let's look at a yearly chart. We're not going to talk about the yearly charts yet and why we should be watching these, but as you can see, right, this is the area we're focusing on. Grab this. This is the area we're focusing on right here, okay? And as you can see, this stock has had a phenomenal run over the past week. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So about 8 days of straight continuation where it continues going up. Okay, so we're going to go in and we're going to look at this, and I'm going to show you exactly what it is I was just explaining that we're looking for in continuation plays. So we'll do a 5-day, 5-minute chart. Actually, that's a lie. We're going to do a 10-day, 5-minute chart. Okay, so look at this. If you ran this scanner back a couple days ago, you would have found, actually, let me zoom in before we do that. So if we will start here, we'll zoom in on these days. Okay, so if you in fact use this scanner a couple days ago, it would have brought up the stock chart I, and you would have seen it on this day right here. Okay, all these others, you would have seen it on this day. Okay, so what is this day? What's so important about this day? Why would we consider this a good candidate for a continuation play? Why would we have considered the stock I for a good candidate on a continuation play if we found it this day, 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 or even if we found it this day? Excuse me. The reason we would consider him a good candidate is because the price of it went up. It had a good day, and then at the end of the day, it closes very high. Or right here, you can see the closing price right here was very high or closed very close to the high of day. It wasn't exact, but it closed very close. Right here, the price closed right in here, very close to the high of day price. Right, let's go back here. The price closed right here, and that was very close to the high of day price. We go back up here. It closed very close to the high of day price, which means that the next day, right, if the price closes right here, we won't use this one for example, but let's get these old drawings off. So what this means is if the price closes, you know, like right here, or let's use this day for example, the price closed right here, that means the next day, you know, the next day it only has to go a little bit, right? It only has to pop up just a little bit before it breaks over yesterday's high, which means we are now going higher, okay? Which means we are continuing up, okay? Now, think about it this way. Imagine if, right, on this day, instead of it closing here, imagine if it closed all the way down here, right? And then the next day during the trading day, it's going to open somewhere around here. That means it has to go all the way back up to just here before it's even attempting, not successfully going through, but attempting the previous high a day, okay? So you already know that this is a resistance point. So the further you are away from it, the harder it would be for the stock to continue up. That's why when we look at continuation plays, we're looking specifically for stocks that close the day almost identical or exactly at the high of day price or just a little bit off of it. And as you can see on this couple day run for the stock I, the price closed right, I mean, there almost was no high of days because the price continued up all day and closed the day out up so high that it was basically at the high of day. That's the high of day. That was the close, right? You know, like this was high of day here. This was the close. This is high of day. That's the close. This is high of day. That's the close. So it doesn't take much effort the next day to really get above the previous day because you're already so high up there, okay? So that is what we're looking for in continuation plays. And the reason continuation plays are nice is because at nighttime, you can run the scan and you can simply go through before doing any more in-depth research on these stocks. This is what you have to do. And it's actually, rather than say this is what you have to do, I would rather say this is all you have to do, okay? Let me do this and then shrink this back up. So this is all you have to do is you just use the scanner and these criteria at nighttime when the market closes, you search the tickers. So we come up with BDR today, okay? And remember what we said? We like a stock that was going up all day. Let me get this one off here. We like a stock that's going up all day and the price at which it closes at, so you know, right here, the closing price is relatively close to the high of day, which is right here. And yeah, that's not too far off. It's not the best, but it's not too far off. So we got to think to ourselves that it's very possible that tomorrow, you know, the price could in fact come up and break through that previous high of day, which would be right here, and it could continue higher. So this could be a good candidate for a continuation, right? So that's all you have to do when you're going through these scanners and you're looking at these stocks. All you have to do is type in the ticker and just visually look at its trading day and say to yourself, did it go up? Yes. Did it have a good day? Was there, you know, before we do that, before we even get that far, all you have to do when you look at them is go, is it up and did it close close to its high of day? High of day being the highest the price reached all day, closing price being the price at which it's at when the market closes. So if the price at which it's at when the market closes is almost exact or really close to the highest price it reached all day, then you could say this might be or might have that continuation play tomorrow. Let me put it on the watch list. That's all you have to do, okay? So real quick, let's run through a few more of these so you can get a better example. So BDR was the first one. Let's go down to BLCM. Okay, great example. Perfect example, okay? So let's get the drawings off of here, okay? Perfect example, BLCM. This one right here on the scanner. So if you look at the stock chart, what is it telling you? Well, disregarding this day, don't even worry about that day for now, because you know that has its own whole new story, whole different story. But looking at it here, we could say, okay, the price went up all day. Okay, price is going up, and its closing price right here is almost identical or very close to its high a day. Therefore, tomorrow, it doesn't have very far to go before breaking out of high a day. This is high a day right there, and it doesn't have to go very far before breaking out of that. So it's possible we have a continuation play on our hands, okay? And there's more that goes into it, and we're going to come back to that. So now let's go down the list. Now we go to the next one, which is CRON, right here on the scanner. Perfect. Another great example. Phenomenal example, because I'm running the scanner today, right? So I'm finding the price action for this day, whereas you could have ran the scanner maybe this day and found it on that day, right? So, you know, what we're looking at is the price did in fact go up all day long, and the closing price was very close to the high of day. It was a little bit off of it, a little farther off of it, but not too far, right? Not too far. So yeah, this one we would say has a strong possibility of continuing the next day. Maybe we should put it on the watch list, okay? Let's do one more. Let's keep going down. We'll do one more here. So now we did CRO, we'll do FTFT. Okay, great example to run into. Maybe we'll do another one. So great example to run into. So you come through, sure, the stock may be under $10. It may be up 5%. It may have traded over 500,000 shares of volume. And sure, it may have relative volume of 2 based on all the scan criteria, but it still does not meet the favorable, rules for, possibly being a continuation, because the price went up, great, and it came down, then it went back up, but before the end of the day, it just rolled over and dumped out, and now the price is very far away from the high a day price, which means, first off, it's going to take a lot of effort to get all the way back up there. And then two, if it didn't like this price before and it went all the way back down, what's to say it's going to like that price this time and not come all the way back down? So your chances are far, far less when the price dumps out and it's farther away from the high a day price, because we were up at high a day, we went up here and then we dumped, right? And then we came back up, we never retested, we ended up just coming all the way down. So to think that the next day this is going to go all the way back up, which it could, but for it to then break through, 355, that's very unlikely, because we already tested that area once and dumped, and then we just rolled over. So to think that it's going to do the same exact move tomorrow and then continue up, very unlikely. So this would not be one of our favorable candidates for a continuation play. Now let's just do, maybe we'll do a couple more. Let's go down the list. GSS, next one on the list. Okay, so yeah, you could say that the price went up, but I mean, really, this didn't really have much of a trading day, and we're going to get into more of this just here in a second. Okay, let's go down the list. HEAR. HER, yeah, this one went up too. It does meet the criteria for continuation. It did go up, right? So we did see that it went up all day and it closed relatively high. Now let's look at another one, INTT. Okay, again, yes, this meets the criteria for a continuation play where it's continuing up, and it does in fact continue grinding on up. So yeah, this does meet, the criteria for a continuation play. But this is where things are going to take a little bit of a turn, okay? So what we've covered so far is all you got to do, run the scanner, look at the stock charts, and look at which stocks go up and close relatively high to their high day price. Now you have a candidate for continuation. So that's how we quickly go through. So a lot of you guys ask, and a lot of newer traders like, well, how do you analyze stocks so fast, and how do you pick them, and which ones do you take depending on the chart, then the volume, then the flow? How do you do it? Isn't it overwhelming? And it can be, but when you know the process and you have it down to a T, it's super easy. You just rinse and repeat. So for some of you, I mean, this is still going to be a challenge having to do this and getting used to it. But once you do, it's just like snap, snap, snap. Okay. So right here we have our, so we're still looking at the scanner, right? Now we're going to go back to the top of the list. Let's go back to BDR. Now, when you do this at night and you, BDR. So when you do this at night and you're coming up with these scans, or sorry, you're coming up with these stocks, you're thinking, all right, this one is the one I want to have on my watch list, or these three are the ones I want to have on my watch list, or you're looking at them and you go, yeah, this could be a continuation play. Just because the chart is saying it could be a continuation play, that doesn't mean it will. Okay, it could come down the next day, but you still have to do further research. Okay, so just because the charts look good, that's the quick scan. That's the quick run through. We look at the chart, we say, okay, it's got a nice looking chart, it closed really high, this could be a continuation play. Now, this is where we do a little bit more research, right? So I'll write these down. I'm not necessarily going to, go over them too much in depth here, but we know that we liked BDR, we liked BLCM, and we liked CRON. Those three first stocks here on the scan all looked as if they could be good for a continuation play. So the next thing we would want to do is, okay, BDR looks good. We got to check the news, okay? We now have to do the research and figure out, why did it have a good day? Was it good news? Was there no news, right? Now we research and we figure out why it's doing what it's doing, okay? You may come in here to the news channel and there could be a headline that BDR Blonder Tongue Labs created a new drug, or they created some new thing you put in dog food and it makes dogs' breath smell better. I don't know, right? Whatever it is, we need to figure it out, okay? So it could be dog's breath smelling good, FDA approval, they have the coolest tennis shoes on the market, they just made a t-shirt that you can't even stain. Whatever the news is, we need to figure it out and analyze that news. Now, we're not going to go into the news of BDR, but one way you can do this, one way that you can analyze the news or find news on these stocks, so you've got your continuation plays. We have BDR, we have BLCM, we have CRON. Those are the three ones we just went over, and we said the charts look good for continuation. Now, your first step before going any further, your first step can be one of two things. You can look at volume or you look at the news. We're going to focus on news, then we'll go to volume. You could do this in either fashion. I personally like to go by, you look at the chart, then you go to the news. Look at the chart, news, volume. Chart, news, volume, flow. Chart, news, volume, flow. Okay, and we're going to do this for, and we're going to cover this in many other videos, basically same format, so you'll be comfortable with this format, all right? So we've got the stock BDR. You could come into here. We had a good day, right? So we're looking at the stock here. The stock had a really good day, whatever it is. Now we need to come down and we got to figure out, why did it have a good day? We could start reading the news article. BDR, they got FDA approval. BDR becomes the face of, the world for dog, or BDR, I don't know, creates a new kitten sweatshirt and it blows up. Who knows, right? Who knows what the news is, but that's our job, is to come in and we start reading the news. If you're located outside the country and you don't have access to TD Ameritrade, I like to use the news tab. The news tab is right here on TD Ameritrade. That is most likely where I'll analyze my news. Occasionally, I'll go off-site to something like Finviz. So if you're located outside of America, you don't use TD Ameritrade to trade. If you use E-Trade, or you use SpeedTrader, they all have their news, sections in their platform you can use, but I personally use TD Ameritrade. So just know that if you use SpeedTrade, Lightspeed, Interactive Brokers, Centerpoint, doesn't matter, whatever your trading broker is, most of them will tend to have a news article report section where you can find new news releases on any stock, okay? But if you're located outside the country and you want a different, you're looking outside of America, United States, if you wanted another option, you could simply do it this way. You see that BDR is up, you want to find the news, you could easily, you could easily just go to Finviz, right? You can go into Finviz and just click the stock, right? You can click BDR and you will come down here and it will give you the most recent the top one here will be the most recent news article about that particular stock. So on April 13th here, it says, you know, what investors should know about Blonder Tongue Laboratories, right? And here you go. If you look here on TD Ameritrade, there isn't any article. There is no news article for April 13th. There is one for April 2nd, right? Which is this one, right? You see right here, it says Blonder Tongue Laboratories CEO Robert Pally, Q4 2017 results earnings call. If you come down here, it says, yeah, that was the earnings call. So TD Ameritrade doesn't even have the April 13th news release that says what investors should know about Blonder Tongue Laboratories Inc. So if I'm ever on TD Ameritrade and I can't find any news, it's a good idea to type that ticker in or go search it on something like FinViz, because FinViz will usually have a news release for you. So if you can't find it here on TD Ameritrade, use something like FinViz. Or if you don't even have TD Ameritrade and you need an additional resource to find news, you go to FinViz, or you could do MarketWatch, something like, or you could use Benzinga. Okay, so there's definitely some resources out there, but this is a good way to do it. Okay, so we've gone through that step. We've found the stocks we like, continuation play. Now our next step is finding news. That could either be in TD Ameritrade, you could use something like FinViz. So now we have that down. We go in, we find the news, and we read it. And so on April 13th, it says what investors should know about Blonder Tongue Laboratories. I'm not going to read it right now, but you could go into there and go, oh, they got, who knows, this article says they got 20 employees and they're killing it, and they got new drugs coming out and they should start taking off. Who knows, right? That could make other investors and other traders think that it's going to be a good play the next day as well. So that's our job. We find the charts. They look like we could have continuation play. Then the next thing we do is we look and we find any news that may have caused the stock to go up that day, or any new news that can cause that stock to continue up the next day. So now that we have the news in our mind, we've read the news, we know what's going on, our next step is to get an idea of how much volume it trades. Okay, so this is something where you could just kind of quickly look at Thinkorswim, right? You could look at Thinkorswim and you could do something like go to the daily chart, and you'll find that, you know, it traded, let me do this. Right, if you hover over the candle on a daily chart, I'll say it traded right here, 5 million in the very bottom left. I'll circle it. Right, oh, no, not that. Right here on TD Ameritrade, it'll say the volume. Right, so if you hover over the candle, it'll say it traded 5 million shares. Or you could go down to FinViz, right, and it says it trades 5,700,000 shares. Right, so again, you can find the volume here on TD Ameritrade. You can find it here on FinViz. You can find it on your trading platform. They should provide you with the amount of volume it's traded for the day. And the reason we're doing that is we want to get an understanding of the stock, right? So now that you know that, it's more of looking at some of the in-depth technicals of the stock. How much volume has it traded? So this would be a good area to use FinViz, because FinViz plots it all there for you. So we're thinking we want to do BDR continuation play for tomorrow. We've looked at the chart. The chart tells us we could have continuation. We've looked at the news. They have some positive news that just came out. Now we want to go, how much volume did it trade the other day? It traded 5 million shares. That's a good amount of volume. Now we should go look at what's the average volume. And really what we're doing here, guys, is we're just getting an idea of what it is we're thinking of trading. If we don't know anything about what it is we're trying to trade, we're probably not going to do very well, okay? And in later videos, I'm going to go into more detail about all these other little institutional ownership transactions, EPS ratios. So don't mind any of this other stuff right now. Just listen to what I'm saying. Is really what we do once we find the chart. We like the pattern, right? We think it could be a continuation pay. We like it. We've read the news. We like that. Now we got to do our digging and go, okay, they traded 5 million shares yesterday. So I'll circle these things. They traded, they traded, and I should do a square, right? Yeah, they did, and I should do red because white won't show up good. There we go. So we look and, okay, they did 5 million shares yesterday. That's good. The price is up 36%. Clearly, they had a really good day. You know, what else? Their average volume, typically they trade 246,000 shares of volume, but yesterday they did 5 million. What is that telling you? On average, they only trade 246, but right now they're trading 5 million. People are interested. Volume is key. Volume is the most important indicator and signal out there. People could throw you could throw a Fibonacci's, you can throw MACDs, you can throw whatever you want on a stock chart as an indicator and think it's helping you, but nothing will help you more, or nothing is your best friend other than volume. Volume speaks it all, because if there's no volume and no one's trading it, it won't go anywhere. If there's high volume and people are trading it, it has potential. If there's high volume and people are trading it, people are trading it for a reason, okay? So what I'm getting at is, imagine a stock trading no volume, no volume. It's been open on the market for a year, trading no volume, no volume, no volume, and then all of a sudden, some random day, it trades 10 million shares. That is a signal. For whatever reason, it just traded 10 million shares a day. The volume was huge. For whatever reason, people want it. Volume tells you people want it. There's a demand. Whatever the reason for the demand, there clearly is one, and you should pay attention to that, because it's literally telling you, hey, look at me. People are trading it. People are trading it, okay? Again, and I used this example before, volume in the stock market is like going to a party in real life, okay? If you go to a party and nobody's there, it's not a fun party, and you're probably not going to be there very long, or the party's probably going to suck, right? If you go to a party and no one's there, chances are you're going to leave, right? And you don't want to be there. Think about it this way. You live on a block, right? You're throwing a party and your neighbor's throwing a party. Or let's say you were trying to go to a party. You know there's two parties on this particular street, okay? Down at the end, you have the Johnson's party, and at the other end, you have the Greens party, right? The Greens party, there's not really anyone there. There's no music. There's hardly any cars outside. But then you look down the street, and the Johnson's house is banging. There's music. There's women. There's guys. There's a band. There's drinks. There's food. There's pizza. There's games. It looks fun. People are there. They're not at Mr. Green's, but they're at Mr. Johnson. So which one do you want to? Where do you want to be? Which stock would you want to trade? Would you want to trade Mr. Green's, where there's no one, no volume, and no one's having a good time? Or would you want to trade Johnson stock, where everybody's at? They're having a good time. There's people there. That's why volume is so important, because it speaks it all. If there's no volume, there's no point in trading it. So that's where it's important, just to get an idea of how much volume is it trading, right? And now you may ask, well, what's a good volume? And again, like we say, volume should be in the millions. We always say over 500,000, but when we say that stocks you're trading should at least have over 500,000, that means that when the day starts and the trading day starts, there should at least be over 500,000 shares, like instantaneously, not over the course of one day. And we'll touch more on that. I don't want to go off track here. So now that you know the volume and you can see that it's picking up in volume, the next most important thing to look at is the float, share float. This one right here. I'll go into more description about all the other ones, but when we're doing this and we're trading penny stocks, the most important thing that we need to state, okay, and we'll go into this in other videos here too, is the volume, maybe relative volume, average volume, and the float. Because if we know that there's a low float, we know that if there's a lot of volume, this thing can run, okay? So for right now, we know that on BDR, it does have the possibility for a continuation play, okay? It did have some good news. We read the news. It only has a 4 million share float. That's really low. So we know that if there's more volume on this, it could do things like this, run from 90 cents to $1.35 in just a few candles. If there's even more volume than this, maybe in the couple millions right out of the gate, it could run from 90 cents to $5, right? It has the potential, okay? So we go, it's got a short flow, or sorry, it has a small flow. The relative volume is at 23, which is high, okay? The average volume typically is 246,000, but it's trading 5 million right now. And there's good news. All the things that we just did point to strong technicals and maybe a little bit of fundamentals, but what we did there is we looked and we said, okay, BDR, it's up on the day, it closed relatively high to its high a day, so we know that it could be a continuation. Now let's go and let's look at the news. Is there news? Oh, there was. Maybe that's why the stock went up today. And so that makes sense. So the stock went up. There was good news. So there was a reason that it moved up. It just didn't happen by accident, which is better. We don't want things to happen by accident. In the market, there should always be a reason why something's happening, and we should always be able to kind of justify what's happening. Now, not everything needs an answer and a why to what's happening, but there should be, you know, something that drives the price of a stock up, right? If a stock just starts popping up out of nowhere and flying up, there should be a reason for it, and it will most likely be news. And in this situation, BDR just the other day popped up, and it was because of, it may be because of some news, right? So now we know that it went up on news. It has a continuation pattern. The float is low, so now we know if volume really picks up in a few days or tomorrow or whenever, this thing could really pop. The relative volume's high. It's trading way more than its average volume. It had a good day. This is a strong candidate for a continuation play. We should keep it on our watch list. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. So however long this video is, and it took me to get that across, that is how we do continuation plays for penny stocks. We scan after hours when the market closes. Scanners are super simple. Scan for a stock that went up. Scan for a stock that's a penny stock based on price. You know, a few simple things like relative volume and percent change, and which is all right here on the screen, right? That's what we scan for. We look at the chart. We do a quick scan of all the stocks that the scanner pulls up. We look at the charts. This one looks like it could have continuation. It closed high on the day. Okay. Did it have news? It did have news. Okay, good. What's the float? It's a low float. Good, right? So we're looking at all these things to determine what's going to be a good stock, right? And that's exactly the steps that you take day in and day out in the aftermarket to trade these particular stocks. Now we'll do one more, and this one will be much quicker. So let's do BLCM. So we go to BLCM. Okay, so BLCM will go, okay, it does in fact meet that criteria where it went up all day long. Right, it went up all day long. It closed relatively high. Now we would go, okay, what's the news? Okay, there was in fact some news on 4/12. What about 4/13? So, you know, maybe go here on FinViz and go, was there news for 4/13? Did we miss anything? So really there wasn't any news there. No, I mean, maybe some news here. You know, so yeah, there's some news. Maybe go in and read this news, figure out why is it, and it's saying right here, is Bellicum Pharmaceutical stock now a strong buy? Bellicum Pharmaceuticals headline, is it a strong buy? Maybe it is. So read the news. You come to find the news is good, come up here and look at, okay, on average it trades 1 million. Right now it's trading almost 3 million, so it's definitely trading above its normal. Its relative volume it's pretty good. Okay, it's got a 29 million share float, so a little bit higher, not 4 million, but it's still, you know, a possibility this could be a good stock to trade. So let's keep it on our watch list, right? And that's your process of going through, analyzing, and finding. Now we have to do a technical analysis on the stock. We actually have to go and look back in longer time frames and analyze it through and throughout. Now that we think it could be a good play, we have to figure out target prices. How do we figure out, you know, where should we look to sell? Maybe where are we looking to buy? Things like that. So for continuation plays, if you're going to play continuation plays in these penny stocks, your entry for a continuation play, and I'll use the example I again. This is a great example. So let's go back into a 5-day, 5-minute. We'll shrink this down. So when you're doing continuation plays, as I stated, we're looking for the stocks that close relatively high to the high of day. So for this one, let's use this day, for example. Your entry on this stock would be as soon as it breaks over the previous high of day. So this red line, right? So like right there. Okay, let's look at this one. So actually, let's go back. Let's do a couple other days because it worked better there in the longer time frames. Let's go 10-day, 5-minute. There we go. And delete this old one off. All right, so here we go. Here's a better example. Now, right, so you see here's high a day. So really for this one, your entry here would have been a break over the previous high a day. So as soon as the market opens, basically that's your entry. Here, where we have high a day, this was the highest price it reached all day on this day. So your entry essentially would be over that white line, over the previous high a day. Continue over, right? So here's high today, so you draw a line all the way across, and as soon as the price breaks over that the next day, that would be your entry, because if this is in fact going to continue, it's going to continue once it breaks over the previous day's high. So your entry would have been right over that line, and next thing you know, you're golden almost all day long, right? And then the same thing would happen for the next day and the next day, right? So when you're looking for continuation plays, your entry is a break above the previous day's high. Okay, so now that you know where you would be buying on these, essentially these particular continuation plays, that's only half the battle. Majority of the battle comes down to this. So we were just looking at these charts on like a 5-minute chart or a 1-minute chart, but after you think you found a continuation play, the most important thing thereafter is to come into a 1-year chart. Start on a 1-year chart. And if you've gone through the course so far, you would know how to spot out resistances and support lines and things like that. So what we come to find on the stock on the stock I, and we're thinking, okay, is it going to continue? Is it going to continue? Well, things we'd have to start realizing is like this. It's 52-week high, or the highest that this stock I has reached all year long was a high of 747, or you could just call it 750, right in that area. So there's one right at 748, 750. There's a resistance area. There was also one here at like 661. Is that right? Yeah, 660, 650, right in that area. Okay, so that's your thing. The price is going up. We now want to figure out on a daily chart, on a 1-year time frame. Let's take a step back. Let's get a better view of what's going on. We'll come to find that, oh, maybe the stock I won't continue up tomorrow because we're coming right into resistance, and traders might get a little nervous and start selling because they know we've been going up for a lot of days, right? So if you look at this, you'll say to yourself, well, we've been going up for a lot of days, and we're coming right into some major resistance where previously when we got that high, we just came right back down. So a lot of traders might be getting a little nervous now, okay? And now it's your job to say, okay, we're right at resistance. Maybe this isn't the best time to buy. Maybe it's a better time to short, right? Okay, what else are we thinking? Well, okay, now that we're coming close to resistance, think to yourself, what are the candlesticks telling you? Well, what we do know is when we were down here, right, when we were lower down here and here, we were having really strong days. And what I mean by strong days, you could see the candles, they would go up and they'd close all the way at the tops. Now let's take a step back and look at it from this way. Now that we've gotten up higher to, let me do this way, I'll zoom back up. Now that we've gotten higher, closer to that 750 resistance, what's happening? You're starting to see some of these candles. Oh, there's a doji. Oh, there's a long upper wick. So you can tell buyers are starting to maybe slow down a little bit, or there might be a little bit more selling pressure because the candles don't look as good as they did down here, which makes sense because there wasn't as strong a resistance. But now you're getting up towards some bigger resistance areas. Maybe it's not the best time to buy, or maybe I'll hold on. Maybe I wait until it breaks over 747, see how it reacts, okay? And then even there, it's a good idea to come into a 180-day time frame. What's it look like on a 180-day chart? You can see we're still going up, still trending up. Okay, right? We're testing some of these key levels. Then maybe you even go as far as looking at a 20-day chart, right? And then you get into a 1-minute chart and you're mapping out the areas on a 1-minute chart. So the idea here is we're going to wrap it up now. Okay, this is the wrap up. Continuation play. Use one of the scanners here that I've showed you for FinViz or for the aftermarket scanner in TOS, or use both of them because sometimes they pick up a little bit different stocks, okay? Then we look for stocks that went up all day and they closed relatively high, okay? Then we go in, we read the news. Did they have an FDA approval? Did they create some new drug? Who knows, right? What is the news? Is it good? It's good? All right. Then we go in and we look at some other things. What's the float? What kind of supply of shares do they have available on the open market? How much volume did it trade today? Is it trading more volume than it typically trades on an average day? Get an idea for what it is you're trading. Once that all aligns, then start looking at the chart and go, okay, let's look at a yearly chart. Well, we have resistance up here at $5, $10. We have support down here at at $3. We're right in the middle, so you know we may be able to push a little higher. We might drop a little lower, right? The idea is to get an idea for the supports, the resistances, and everything about the stock before the next day starts, and that is your process for finding continuation plays. Now in these next videos, continue going on down through the course in the same manner, video after video. That's how you're going to get the best education or the best value and benefit from mastering penny stocks. And in these next videos, we're now going to talk about the pre-market up gappers and pre-market down gapper scanners, because this is the process, right? At nighttime, you scan for the continuation plays, and then you get a watch list going, right? So, and something I didn't touch on was once you think you found a few continuation plays, write them down or put them on the watch list channel in your broker, right? That's all you have to do is write them down, don't forget them, and keep an eye on them on the next day, because if in fact these are some continuation plays, what do you think is going to happen? If they start going up the next day, they're probably going to end up on your pre-market up gappers, right? So that's why we go from this particular video, these continuation plays, and the next videos we're going in mastering penny stocks is for your pre-market up gappers and down gappers, and that's the way it goes. And then what do you think is coming next? Your low float momentum scanners, because that's how the trading process, rinse and repeat, works. Every night, create a watch list for the next day. Then when you come in the morning, look at your pre-market scanners, because something may have changed in the morning that wasn't available for you to see at night. Some new news may have broken in the morning, so we go to our pre-market scanners. Come to find, maybe you'll see some of those continuation plays that you picked up last night might be on the up scanners, because we're playing them to continue up, right? And if they're going to continue up, they may start doing it pre-market, which means they'll end up on your pre-market scanner, which therefore kind of reinforces your theory and reinforces your thesis and your analysis of why you want to trade it. And in fact, if it's going up pre-market, maybe it's good that you did put it on your watch list and it will continue, right? And then we go into the low float momentum scan, which is what takes place while the trading day is going on. And then once that's over, it's a rinse and repeat. Continuation, pre-market, up gapper, down gapper, low float momentum, intraday scanners, trading day ends. Continuation plays at night. You wake up in the morning, you have your watch list, you start looking at pre-market up gappers, down gappers, then the market opens, and then you're looking at your low float momentum scanners, intraday scanners, reversal scanners. Trading day ends, rinse and repeat. All right, guys, so continue going on down through this list and mastering penny stocks to get the most benefit.